It's June 2016 and I've just updated to the latest version of both Photoshop and Lightroom. And within these updates, we're going to find a fairly significant addition of a new tool, particularly if you're shooting architectural images or anything where you need to have very straight uprights. So the new guided uprights tool is available in both Photoshop via Adobe Camera Raw and in Lightroom. And it's significant because it allows us to go in and have more manual control over getting those vertical and horizontal lines in our image uprighted. And because we're working on the actual raw data, it's working in a lossless fashion for us. So let's take a look. So as usual, I need to come across to my lens correction options and make sure that I have chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections both turned on. Once I have that turned on, I can come up here to my toolbar and I'll find the new transform tool. As I come to my upright panel here, we have all of the standard options. We have our auto and various versions, but we have a new one here, which is the guided upright. As we can see by the instructions, it says to draw 2 or more guides to straighten the horizontal and the verticals. So realistically, I would just need 1 horizontal and 1 vertical, and it would try to align to those lines. You can, of course, add more if you wish. So we'll see how it goes. Now, we have a couple of options down here. We can enable the grid. Okay, so if you want to use the grid to be able to follow along, you can do that. I'm going to turn it off for the moment. You can also have a loop, which will allow, when you move over, will allow you to see with precision the points that you're going to click on. So again, I'll just turn that off for the first pass here. So for me, I would probably be taking this line here, and I'm clicking and dragging and coming down to the end of that line. That's going to create my first vertical. And let's go with the top of the roof here, my first horizontal. So as we can see, that's not straight, so I would now add more horizontals. So I'll come down to the step here and there to there. Okay, and again, still not straight, so let's go for a 4th line, another vertical. Okay. So that's the basics of it, and sure, we can do that in Photoshop under the transform tool and use a free transform and skew and warp and everything like that. But this is working with our raw data, so we're getting a much better quality, and we're still working in a lossless manner at this stage rather than later on in Photoshop. Now might be a good time for me to turn my grid back on and just see how things are looking. And it's not too bad. Remembering that you can still change the aspect if you felt that things were out of proportion. So I think the way that I would work in terms of this workflow for using the guided upright would be to lay my vertical and horizontal lines down, and then work to the aspect to get the right shape in if it looked a little bit out. So if I was to turn my loop on, leave my overlay on, I can come in here if I decided that I wanted to get things a lot more accurate. So if I go to that corner and that corner, and it's quite sensitive. I'm finding the actual loop. So yeah, that was a lot more finicky than I had expected it would be, just with it being really very sensitive. So, but that's it basically. So I could clear my guides down here if I wanted to. Let's have a look at the before and after. Obviously your results are going to differ depending on how you've captured your image to begin with, but I think it's quite good. It's going to be very handy, I think, in a lot of applications, and as you can see, it's quite fast, and again, it's lossless because we're working with the raw file. So remember, this is in the latest version of Camera Raw when you update your Photoshop, and you'll also find the equivalent in Lightroom.